Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Susanna Bevilacqua, and I'm the founder of Moral Fairground. We pride ourselves in bringing people, businesses, and communities together to share stories of people in our communities that are doing amazing things to tackle social and economic barriers in society. And we host a number of different events throughout the year. Some are small, intimate events, others are larger festival. Obviously, due to COVID last year, everything changed and it's like starting all over again. But I would like to start, first of all, by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land upon which we are today here in Melbourne, Darwin, and the Northern Territory. Is that right? And pay my respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging. I would also like to extend this acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the land that all of us here attending this event are part of, because we believe that it is important to acknowledge and recognise our roots, cultures and traditions, because only if we appreciate their wealth can we appreciate the impact that we strive to achieve in society and the world. So today we're coming together to celebrate International Women's Day. So thank you very much for everyone that's joined in and anyone that will be watching this after this event is published. And we're here in particular to celebrate the achievements of women that are great contributors to society through their respective social enterprises. And this year's theme is to choose to challenge. And I would like everyone to think about what that means to them. It's a very powerful word, and I'm sure everyone has had a bit of a thought, or perhaps we might ask later to the speakers to what does it mean to you? We will be chatting to 5 amazing people. We started off with 3, now we have 5, which is really good. And we will also be sharing a video later on, and you can engage at any time, send us through any questions at any point in time, and we can ask the speakers as we go along. Now, this event is recorded, so if you don't feel comfortable, you can turn off your camera. Otherwise, please leave it on. It's nice to see people when you're in an event. All I'll ask you to do, if you can sort of remove or mute yourself, that way we can hear the person speaking really, really well. So I'm going to start introducing some of the speakers, but really the moderator today is Felicity. I'll introduce Felicity first. Felicity Wright is the founder of Flying Fox Fabrics, a social enterprise that combines a love of Indigenous textiles with a zest for fair trade, creating a cross-cultural project that facilitates manufacturing of products made out of hand-printed woven fabrics. Felicity, like I mentioned, will also be moderating the conversation today. I would also like to welcome an Aboriginal Artist Keturah Zimran from the Ikuntji Artists located in the Northern Territory, and Krishna, who's the manager of the Ikuntji Artists. And I do apologise if I pronounce the name incorrectly. You might just be able to help us with that later on when you introduce yourself. We also have Chanveasna Nhean, all the way from Cambodia, and she's the founder, director of Women for Women, a social enterprise in Cambodia that recruits, trains, supports, and employs disabled women and minority groups in remote communities. And last is Jude, who's an artist and a fabric printer. So if you have any more technical questions, you'll be able to ask her as well. So I will now pass this conversation to Felicity, and I will monitor any questions that any one of you might have. Felicity, you can continue.
Thanks so much, Susanna. It's really lovely to be here. And a big thank you to Moral Fairground for facilitating this, because I think I haven't done one before, and neither have some of the other participants. So I understand Ikuntji Artists are pretty used to doing this because they're a bit more famous than the rest of us. And it's a wonderful opportunity to engage. This is what technology brings us is engage directly with people who are interested in what we do, wherever they may be in the world. So the way we've planned today, Keturah and Krishna have just been at the Des Art Conference for 2 days, and it's the end of their day, so it's 4 p.m. there. So we're going to focus for the first part of the session on listening to them and hearing the story of Ikuntji Artists and their fabric printing, and Keturah's individual story. And they will be really handling that. I'm going to leave it to them for the however long it takes. So they're showing a video, a wonderful little video that was just finished, and it'll give you some context and also introduce you to the artist. And then they'll be speaking together. After that first session, there's a Q&A opportunity. So while they're speaking, you're welcome to be writing your questions down, sending them through to Susanna, or noting them. And because Susanna has a lot more experience than me, although I moderate, we're co-moderating really. So that she'll be able to reflect those. So we're going to really focus. So they might not be with us for more than an hour. We've allowed 90 minutes. It might all be over and done with if you don't have many questions within an hour. But so we're focusing first on the Ikuntji Artists component. Then after that, we'll be having Chanveasna Nhean speaking from Cambodia, followed by Jude from Goonangary and in New South Wales, and then myself. And we're speaking, each of us is speaking, 5 to 7 minutes each, so it won't be too long. And then we'll take Q&As from everybody, and we're happy to answer any questions. So that's the way we've scoped this out. Like I said, if questions come to you, either note them down, you can send them through while someone's talking. But the first sessions will be focusing on Ikuntji Artists.
Hi, my name is Keturah Zimran. I'm a Lorita woman from Ikuntji, and I'm born at Ikuntji. I'm a board member for Ikuntji Artists, and the art center was almost going for 30 years. And it's an art center, it's for women, by women. Ngai lo starting pi ndabalanda ko. Ngai ko amma mi ko ngora. Because I've been there when I was 8 years old with my grandmother. I was so proud. And then I would start looking at my grandmother and my mother doing painting in the art center. My grandmother was Napara Nangala. She was an artist. And my mother, Molly Chukudai, she's an artist too. Because I learned from them, watching them doing paintings, telling stories, nguradara, and ngailul pinap kulino. Palali dangalaji arts and Haasts Bluff. And ngail ngajar ngakurul pinapalani. Everything at ngaikuno pintang chinchiring. Paiki guru, mantara guru, and rags. I feel so proud of myself. What I'm doing for my future, and ngayulo pinta pallara ngayulo kulini ngayko grandmother na paranya paloyal chingay nyotano pinta palanda ko ala jiko nyundo palala one day nyundo yan nga ko robin palal ngaylil takulil pay il tangana na chungong ko at sindang kapalal pay pinta. And nganan na chungong ko be palal pa every morning ngalan ko lahat sindang and nganan ularang anang at sindang kapalal pa jurang nganan ularang ko chungori ko palal pa to keep that senda going. You nganan na green printing palano as plapala and sa tanggal penganan niya palani, sa takut pita nari, sa jana palanuan paprikil bijana palani, screen printing ari palanu, and paprika palani, magpie cruise na pangalan na kunjak, number nyajuran and nganan palano necklace tina pondo. That was collaboration from all the artists from Ikuntji kung kajotango palyalingo different necklace chungo no lat in Indigenous. Fila milanil barnango ilta nganan palyanda ko na nilingo purnungan pang altini palyanda to keep that and going, to keep that and strong. And mural palyanda nang katawinala ngay lo nangengi putong kalpi kos tawinala koran ko ngay ko ilta nang pat kanat biara min tango nani rular stop milang ngay kala puto ko nangeng mural ngay palyalingko. It was really bright and I was so happy that I was looking at the photos of the mural. So I feel proud and happy when I see my design. When I walk past, I can see my design in the shop. Then I feel really good. I hope to see you. You are ngayon kulini. Piling ko, pipiling ay ko jurang ko binangan ngay ko tota ko san ang ko binangan my families tanay tapi ni an kanyo pan cara ko jun na nyo pan design cara nyo pan design nangan nila paiking anang ko wala milaningi close photoshop ni nang ngat nango tata kalau nyawara milaninga anango that's make me feel proud too. You angai lorun pala jiwa nang wiya kwari ko jungai lananga nyala ji ciring udang lorun pala jiwa la nyako be wiya anango kono designer wara milaninga close. So my plan is still to keep on to the painting. Like exhibition na pagkajinak mura ko cebang nyuntro pinan ko lanyangan nyuntro pan pinta work nyuntro palano because I'm the youngest artist from my family. Maybe one day my granddaughter can watch and learn from me. Hello, my name is Keturah Zimran. I'm from Ikuntji Artists.
And that little video obviously was about Keturah and her story. And Ikuntji Artists is about 230 kilometres west of Alice Springs. It was set up in the early 90s as an art centre for Aboriginal women by Aboriginal women and has been running ever since, as Keturah mentioned in the film. It was originally started with t-shirt printing and works on paper. And about 4 years ago, we started with a series of workshops again to go back to the roots of printing, screen printing. And that's really where it all started, from t-shirt printing again. So we went down the route of t-shirt designs and started out what was possible and what people were interested in, and tried to sell the t-shirts as well, of course, and see what designs were much loved. And had another workshop in 2018 where for the first time lengths of fabric were printed in the art centre, and were then approached already in 2017 by Magpie Goose about a possible collaboration. And then the following year they came out and talked to the artists and discussed the possibility of it, which then had as a follow-on thing that because Magpie Goose prints at Publisher Textiles in Sydney, that they got all the screens made up in Sydney, and we've been able to since print with Publisher Textiles as well, as you saw in the video, lengths of up to 20 meters in one go. So from one workshop of t-shirt designs, we've been able to develop it now into then working with Flying Fox Fabrics together to send the fabrics over to Cambodia and getting bags made out of this. So it's come a long way from 2 small workshops to now become another branch of the art centre, which mainly focuses on painting normally. So yeah, it's diversifying the income for the artists and the opportunities, artistic opportunities as well. Maybe Flick, it's easiest if you have some questions that you would like to ask Keturah.
I'd also welcome other people if anyone has some questions, because yeah, I can see Susanna's got a question.
Yeah. So how do you recruit young, Aboriginal artists to come and join what you've got going at the moment? It seems to me an amazing opportunity for people to really develop this, and Aboriginal art now is so well known. So how do you do it in a remote community, like that?
Yeah, I was watching my grandmother and my mother's doing painting, that I was sitting beside them, because I didn't have a campus ready, because I have to watch them and learn from them.
But it's of course also in the rule book how you recruit. You can't just go, oh, I'll get someone from the East Coast, an Indigenous person. It's defined that any member of the Art Centre, because we're a member-based organisation, has to be from Haasts Bluff, has to be residing in Haasts Bluff. So of course, that is the parameter, and that's actually what Keturah outlined as well. She's learned the whole process from her grandmother and her mother. So the recruitment, as you would call it, actually already starts as soon as you're born, like you did with your son Hubert as well. You brought him in a couple of days after he was born. Yeah. So we've got a little cohort of Art Centre babies, huh?
Can I ask also, how did COVID affect you or the business that you run? Has that had any impact on your community or the business?
Well, all non-essential services under which the Art Centre folds were closed for 3 months, and that means the Art Centre was closed from March until June. And of course, that had an effect with no art production, but also artists having no place they can go to. And being the only business in the community that's Aboriginal owned and run, that has a significant impact on income and activity, and yeah, it's endless really, isn't it? Yeah, when you can't go, when normally that fills your entire day, doesn't it, to come to the Art Centre?
But maybe talk about, because I know the inside story from your mob, maybe tell us about how Ikuntji Artists did during COVID, how you
financially,
how you managed your enterprise to stay strong during COVID.
So basically we used the opportunity from an administrative point of view to put the message out to all buyers that if they support us throughout this time, we honour that they will get sent everything that they buy as soon as we reopen, but at the same time we encourage them the whole time to keep on buying to support our artists continuously. So as soon as a purchase was made, the artist was paid, yet some customers had to wait several months for their purchases to arrive, and they were all happy to do that. And it meant for us a very big increase in sales, because people were wanting to support remote Aboriginal artists in this difficult time. Yeah.
So you've been selling a lot online then, have you?
Yeah, most of our business is now online, and yeah, our website, we did a recent upgrade because of COVID as well. We noticed, of course, some shortfalls of the website, and we did an upgrade over the past 4 months, which is now completed, of the website to incorporate all the feedback we had, but also all the necessities for a situation like this.
Can I ask a question? How how big is that Haasts Bluff? What are we talking about in terms of population, and how many people are involved with the Ikuntji artists?
It's 160 people live in the community, and on the books are 45 artists. Yeah, so about a quarter of the population. Yeah.
And
if not more, because then you've got to take in the 160, there's all the service providers too. So really you're looking at a third of the population.
And given that we're talking about fabrics, tell us about the collaboration you did with Magpie Goose and how that panned out over COVID, because it started just before COVID. Tell us about that.
So originally the plan was for them to come out in November 2019 to do a photo shoot, which didn't work out with our artist. And they had to, because they always do their photography in community, they had to get someone to do it in Melbourne, which they weren't happy about. The collection was launched then in several steps as well, not in one go. And they launched partially in December, and then it was more and more releases. By the time the whole collection was finished, they that was in March, I think, just about March, COVID hit, and they asked if we can photograph it in community, but we could only do this, of course, after the closure of the community. So it worked out in several ways. For one, that they reprinted the entire collection 4 times, which they've never done, and also because it sold out so quickly. And then as a next step, it meant that most of the photography actually came from us as well. So we've had some of the photos in the film too, that a lot of the local girls were actually modeling for it. And that's what we do. So as a follow-on, then publisher Textiles started making a collection with us, and they only wanted local models to do this. Yeah.
So we've got a question. Where do most of your buyers come from?
Australia.
Australia. So not overseas. Yeah.
Some overseas buyers, but not the majority, no.
And you market yourself just through your website, art galleries, or how do you?
Oh, it's endless. So it's through tourism channels, through our website, social media, through, yeah, really it is endless. There's lots of portals we're on that people can find us and always get directed back to the website, basically, and have a continuous, the same messaging all around. We don't make any, and we don't send out any different messaging either.
And tell us about your setup for printing in the art centre. Tell us about your physical art centre, how big or small it is, and your setup for printing on fabric there.
Well, you saw the space there. That was the original space in the photos. That was all there was. In 2011, there was one upgrade with a shed at the back. And then there's a bit of an extension to the side, to the end of what we saw for a gallery. The setup for printing is really not, it's more like a trial space where we can see if a design works, but it's really not to go into big production, huh? We've got 2 little tables of a length of 2.4 meters and a width of 1.6 meters. So very unusual shapes. And that means in that second workshop, we ended up building screens that fit our tables rather than, having the opportunity to have a standard size.
So when you print a length of fabric, I'm hearing that your tables are very small. So tell us in comparison to what Publisher Textiles can offer to you then in terms of printing, or a larger printing company.
Well, I haven't seen the space. I can only tell from the photos. So they have tables that go up to 20 meters, and the width of their table is 1.50 meters from what I know. And they've got 2 tables set up next to each other, so they can print before changing the fabric 40 meters at a time. of course, you know, what we can print is 4 meters 80 at a time. So that means we had a show with our fabrics that we did ourselves in the 2018, I think. And that was the first time we showed our fabrics printed by us. And that actually made it pretty clear that each one is a one-off, really. The ones that we do are more bespoke pieces. We can't do printing by the meter like they do. And of course, it's much more cost effective if it then gets done the way they do it than what we do.
So Keturah, who prints on the fabric at Ikuntji?
Artist.
Yeah.
I've seen photos of Callie printing. Who else prints?
Lisa, Benita, and who else?
But they are the 3 who did a visual art certificate through Bachelor to do the printing, the screen printing. So they did a several month course. And then for the t-shirt printing, everybody had to go to try and do their own design.
And all your t-shirts are printed in the community, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yep.
And where can people buy them?
On our website.
Can I just ask, how important is this centre for the community? What does it mean to have this in your community?
What would happen if they found Ikuntji Artists? How important is it?
So about that.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, it's really important for us to be there all the time, to do the paintings and printings. Yeah.
It's really the only place in the community where people can go to. I think, it might not be so easy to understand as an outsider, but there's no other places one can go to and even have a yarn and sit down and have a coffee together or tea, or, you know, and just enjoy each other's company and tell a story, right? And at the same time, there's lots of people painting, but still sharing stories, talking to each other. And it's also really interesting. Once Keturah said to me, it's the only place where she can get a quiet time from her children, because she's got 7 children. It can be, as we all know, a bit taxing. So it's nice to sometimes get a little bit of time out. And the Art Centre is really for the artists to be together, and that makes a big difference, huh?
Yeah.
And it started as a women's centre, and I can see you now sometimes have men working there as well, yeah?
Yeah.
But there's always been men working at the Art Centre, so it's never been exclusive to women, but it's always been from an inclusive point of view, that men are part of it as well.
And babies, I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my sons grew up with me, that I'm walking to the Art Centre with him to do the paintings. He always beside me when he was a baby. Now he's 8 years old.
And how old are your kids, all of them?
17, 23, 13, and 8, and 28. 20.
And how many grandchildren do you have?
I think 8 or 9.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So you've got a whole generation of painters.
9 grandchildren.
9 grandchildren.
99. Yeah,
Can I just ask one final question? Do you get tourists coming there to see the centre? So it is part of the tourist trail. Okay.
Yeah, it's part of the Red Centre Way between Wataka, Kings Canyon, and Alice Springs. So people start from Uluru, they go through Wataka, come to us, and then they go to Alice Springs.
Sounds amazing, really does. Thank you so much for sharing all this. And I was going to ask you about the children because I read your bio, but now I know you go to the centre to paint, to have some peace. So, but this is really amazing. I've learned something really personally, something new today, and you know, and send us all your links so we can promote and the work that you do, because it's just amazing. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having us, Susanna.
Yeah, and if anyone sends through questions while you're both on, we'll direct them to you, because some things might come through. But I've worked with Ikuntji for about 18 months, quite a lot now, and was able to present the money story. We say the money story is the financials at the AGM. And it's really such a strong little art centre. I'm really proud to be involved with it, because I think you do beautiful work, constantly doing, exploring, experimenting, trying new things. And I think a lot of other art centres are watching you thinking, wow, you know, you guys are doing very, very well. So yeah, good on you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, you're going to stay on. Let us know if you want to leave at any point. Just send us a message or put your hand up or whatever. And now we'll move on to meeting Chanveasna Nhean, or Vesna for short, or she can explain. Metre is another name she goes by, who is a fantastic entrepreneur and really dynamic woman. She's got quite a lot of titles. She hasn't really thrown them around in her bio, but she's doing some really good stuff in Cambodia. And I met her when she was running or had an outlet in Phnom Penh called Happy Silk. And it was just one block back from Riverside, which is, you've got the Tonle Sap and then you've got Riverside. And she was opposite another person who I've also gone on to work with. And I drop in and say hello and look at the beautiful products. So I'm really pleased to have been able to have a relationship working with Happy Silk, or Women for Women Foundation, and Vesna over, what is it now, heading towards 8 years, 7 or 8 years. So I'd like to introduce Chanveasna Nhean.
Hello everybody, nice to see you here. Yeah, thank you for opportunity for me to share my experience in my working with the organization that we start in 2005. We provide training to the poor people, especially in disabled women in Cambodia, because we saw like they was not take care from the other people, and they almost of them they lack education. They don't have to school, and they are from outside the countries. They from far from the city, and they come to join the training with our projects, and then they looking for a job. That's why I creating like the store like Happy Seal to find the job for them, and we export, and we sell some product to other store in Cambodia, and we almost do the wholesale product because we need a lot of job for them. So it's better than we we supply to many store. And 2000 during I opened the store in Happy Year. Yeah, I met Fleck, and we talking, and then I introduced her about my product, my organization, and then we start to have the business together until that time. So yeah, I still continue even we have the pandemic during COVID-19. I still find the buyer to support our job until now. We almost close in 2020, and during that time I create another Facebook to sell my product in our local, so we got some profit to support them. I'm working for free until 2019, the end of 2019 until now. I support them until now with a small small job. We don't have a lot of job, but they don't have place to go. And then I have export to Australia only for Fleck, and others they cancel the order. Yes, almost 2 years, and that's why I create another Facebook like a Metrigraph to sell in our local product. And yes, you know why I still, because they working for us like 16 years ago, and until now we look like a family and a sister, and so I cannot give up. So I try to find another job to support to them. And thank you, Fleck, that give me the hard order during the COVID-19. And yes, this is what I think like in the future. Now I try to find some fund to support them. I got the fund from the government to create the activity. Yeah, so I create some activity like promote the product and sell the product in local. And I have the project to train the IP people from Ratanakiri. Also that Fleck, like she told me, oh, it look great that we cooperate like with the IP people, and they can make the bag also. So if you have any question, you can, yeah. And I have sorry, we have some picture that we make the product from in our workshop, make the flying frog product, right? Yes, in our workshop. And here now I'm downstairs in workshop is upstairs. So I'm working here, and I have some product behind me, and we still have some not finished product in here. I can show you some, like if you want to see what inside, I can show you some like inside. So this is what I have inside. Yeah.
Vesna, we've got a question. Does the community use many of the products, or they're all being exported? Do you make products for your community? For Cambodia?
Yeah, we produce for our local and export also. We do both. Yeah, for like we export like for the store, that the retail store, and some they are selling online store, they are wholesale store like this. But in Cambodia, almost we sell direct to the retail shop. But now, you know, it's my store in Cambodia and other people that I supply, they already closed the store. So we don't have, we don't have more job.
Can you show the photos too?
Yeah, we are. We put in the slide. I just want to ask one question. How difficult is it for a woman to start a business in Cambodia?
Now?
Anytime. Is it easy to start off a business, or do the governments make it easy for you, or is it very difficult?
Yes, it's not difficult for us, but like the small business, it's easy for us to do it. But for the export, it's not easy. They try to help us a lot, the government, but the problem is during the processing, we have a lot of problem, and some of the women in Cambodia, they start with they need to learn from the woman entrepreneur. They learn from the other association to support them. And most of us, they don't export the local product. Yeah, they a lot of imports. So when I have the product to export, I need to be ready for register, and I need to know about the logistic, about the cost, about the price, and yes, a lot of process paperwork before we can able to export. But for me, I learn from the projects of ITC, and now we join the project of CBI that they support, and they provide us the technical of to how to join the international market.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Vesna. We showed some photos there. That's ladies in your workshop, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They you see, they are disabled women. But the picture is cannot show because the leg, the problem of their leg. So they are from the countryside. Some are Wonder Woman from Svay Rieng, from Kampong Cham, and they come to live here. They live behind of the workshop. They have the small room for rent, and they stay like one room, 2 people or 3 people, and they working here. So like 1 year they back their hometown like 2 times a year only, and they're living here more than 10 years ago since we start here. Most of them, they cannot find other job in the factory, because they don't accept like disabled women. You know the story that before I have a lot of staff that come to my workshop to have a job, and I don't have much job. I gave them the idea. I told them, okay, you can go to find a job from the factory and somewhere. It's better that you get a high salary than here, or blah blah blah. And then they told me like, I have been there before. I visit the criteria, like the announcement, and they got like somebody that they announced that they need they don't allow, I don't accept for disabled women. They accept only like the good, and then they told me that the tear is fall down and they come back. so they don't go anywhere anymore. They stay here until now.
That's that's a story in Cambodia. I think a lot of people do not realize, you said there's help for you from the government, but for individuals in Cambodia, individual people, there's no pension, there's no disability pension, there's no unemployment benefit, there's nothing like that. People just have to find their own way. And so this is why the enterprises, social enterprises, is so important. And just to clarify another thing Vesna was talking about, Ratanakiri is a really long way from Phnom Penh. It's up on the border near Vietnam, up in the mountains. And the people she's been doing training with are Indigenous people. What's the language group? The Hmong or which ones in Ratanakiri?
Tumpun group. They speak their language. We don't understand, but they told me like they understand Khmer language some, and if I talk like the official professional language, and then they don't understand.
Okay.
They just start to ask somebody.
That's great. Thank you so much, Vesna. And people may have questions for you. A couple came up during there, but I think we'll move on now to Jude. And then maybe we'll come back if people have questions about the project in Cambodia and your work. So I'd like to introduce Jude Wright now. I've known Jude since 1992. I was the manager at Inulluk Arts, and she's asked if we'd like to have a woman come and do a workshop with the printmakers, a design workshop. And at the time, our print workshop had been going for 3 years, and I'd only been there a year, but 3 years, and it was totally dominated by men. And Jude came, she did a workshop. It was extraordinary. 5 ladies worked with her on a design. I hadn't seen a collaborative process before. They did one design, and we then printed it for the next X number of years. And then I was lucky enough with timing when I went back to Inulluk Arts, which is in the Northern Territory, 300 k's east of Darwin. She was again available to come and start doing workshops. The women remembered her very, very well. And so she'll tell you the story from there. But it's really dynamic, interesting woman who's made such a contribution to fabric printing. So I'll hand over to Jude Wright.
Hi, everybody. So I feel like I've been incredibly fortunate to work in Aboriginal art centres and to develop really deep relationships with particularly the Gunwinku women from Gumbalanya in Arnhem Land, where I first went, as Vic said, in 1992, and then I returned back there at various times over the years, but more significantly recently when we ran a series of workshops to develop a whole lot of new designs and screen prints based on women's culture, so that to create a body of work that would also appeal to women consumers. So my role was to come in and run a workshop and support the women to think about what cultural images they wanted to make fabrics about. So it was everything from weaving and different practices that the women do, like their gathering and fish traps and dilly bags, to some of the more spiritual realms of creation mother and the more and corroboree designs. So so I come in, I start by getting the women to work out what they would like to create a design about. What Gunwinku women's culture would they like to share with the world, really? Because once it's printed onto fabrics, it can get turned into many different products, and then it can go far and wide, which is why it's such a fantastic medium. And at Inulluk, the women love to work collaboratively. So I had the same group of women that I did the workshop with in 1992 was still with me. And one of the women in 1992 gave me a skin, which meant I was adopted in as her sister. And as a white person, when you work in an Aboriginal community, if you get adopted in and you get a skin name, it means you're related to absolutely everyone in the community. So all of a sudden you've got aunties and uncles and you're a grandmother, and you just got this whole community that you're woven into. So I continued working with those women, and new women would come in because they'd see what was going on in the art centre and were attracted to come and join, or the other women would bring them in. And so I'd help create, work out what the design was going to be about. Then we'd I'd support the process of helping it form into a sort of cohesive design that would run up the fabric and going to make a continuous repeat. And then we would paint up film positives and coat screens in photographic emulsion. We'd even build the screens at on site at the Art Centre and expose the screens with sunlight. And then I would with some test printing and check that they all worked fine. And then I would leave the community and leave the women to carry on printing when I was gone. So I would just come in for like short stints, set everyone up, we'd do the designs, get it all going. And then once I'd leave, the men and the women would print the designs. But anytime a woman design got printed, the women who were the designers all got royalties for that design. And if they were printing, they would get paid for the printing work. And so what happened with those workshops was all of a sudden we started to, Inuit got a much more gender balance happening in the screen printing room. Until we did those workshops, there was no women printers. And then the women got more, as they got more confident and more skilled, they approached the board of Inuit and said they would really like to also print fabric. And so they had to negotiate with the men who had dominance over the print workshop, because in Indigenous communities, there's men and women, there's cultural rules around working with different, you know, the genders don't all work together. So yeah, so by the time I left, I think the women had 2.5 days printing in the workshop, and the women's designs were becoming the most popular designs for the Art Centre and the biggest sellers. So it was a really empowering situation for the women and an incredible income earner for them. And it was great to have women's culture being spread far and wide and being really valued in the community. And I have sent some slides, but I didn't send any of me working with the women at Inuit because I actually hadn't got their permission. But the women knew that I lived in Byron Bay, and we had fantastic big fat goannas down here. And they were always humbugging me that they wanted to come down to Bunjalung country where I live and catch a goanna. So I met this beautiful Bunjalung woman, and who was holding a group of Bunjalung weavers, and we cooked up a cross-cultural project so that we could get funding and bring the Gunwinku women down to Byron Bay. Can you grab her? So I've got my dogs just digging up my couch. And so the women came down to my place in Byron Bay and did a collaborative project with the Bunjalung women down here, and they caught some goannas, and it was wonderful. And I've got some slides of that collaborative project because I have permission from the Wake Up Time women to show them, and it happened here. So yes, you can show those slides now if you'd like. So yeah, this is Margot, and maybe we can slow the slides down, or can't we slow them down? Okay, all right. Oh, well, there you just get to see a whole bunch of, yeah. So this is basically what happened was the Bunjalung women weren't screen printers, so the Gunwinku women and I showed them how to do screen printing. So we did t-shirt design. So this is Margot's design as it was exposed. Okay, we can go to the next slide. This is the Gunwinku women from Gumbalanya and the Wake Up Time women, and we ran a workshop for white women to come and participate. So this is the whole group of us all together. It was very wonderful, the relationships that got formed. Here's us screen printing in my studio, me working with a couple of the Bunjalung women, printing on a bit of silk. So this is in the actual workshop. So we've got Priscilla on the right and Janelle on the left. And Priscilla and I are showing Janelle how to create a design. This is Teresa and her design, and I'm just holding it up to the light to see how the exposure went, to check that there's any pinholes or any touching up that I need to do on the screen before we go ahead and print it onto t-shirts or tea towels or whatever we decide to do. Maybe that's the last slide, I'm not sure.
That's fantastic, Jude. That's given us a really great overview of your work and what you've done over the years with women, both in West Arnhem Land, which is where Goombalanya or Owen Pally is, and also on the North Coast. So if we'll save questions for after that, I'll just do a little bit of a chat about, because we're heading for time, well, at least for an hour, certainly. And if people want to stay with us, that's fine. I thought it was very important that we did the Ikuntji thing, and they needed to leave. It was a very big day. The two-day Desert Conference only happens once a year, and it's fantastic. So many presentations, and all the community art centres from Central Australia come together in Alice Springs for that. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I've worked with remote community art centres since 1986, so that's quite a long time now. I was originally from Melbourne, had the incredible privilege of falling into a job and falling in love with being able to work with Aboriginal people and Indigenous people. I've also worked in the Torres Strait. Along the way, one of my passions is textiles, so along the way I've had incredible opportunities to work with textile artists and have been active in a number of ways. So one of the things, I worked at Inulluk Arts, we mentioned with Jude twice, and there was a screen print workshop, and the first time there was mainly dominated by men. The second time was wonderful to bring women into that. I'm actually wearing, Jude, you mentioned one of the designs. This is with a dilly bag print. This is the end where you finish it. This is how to use up a bit of fabric at the end where the screen finishes. These became just so extraordinarily successful. And while I was at Inulluk Arts as the mentor manager, I'd come back from Cambodia. I'd spent 2 years in Cambodia as a volunteer with the AVI program, which is a professional volunteering program based in Phnom Penh. I lived in Street 178, which if anyone's been to Phnom Penh is where the museum is. It's a fantastic street. And I actually lived a block away from Happy Silk, Vesna's shop, and Cravan House, which is a shop run by a woman called Tanan. I was taking a break from working in the arts, but in my spare time, my favourite thing, of course, was to go and visit handicrafts and arts and crafts and visit shops. And I love fair trade. So I wanted to see what people were doing in that in Cambodia. So these were good days this was obviously a long time pre-COVID. And I'd already worked with Inulluk, and then someone recruited me to go back. I was only going to go back for a fairly short time, but that turned into a longer time. But while I was there, the fabric printing had been reinvigorated. It had stopped for about 10 years in the 2000s, but this 8-metre table had sat there the whole time. Then it got recovered and rebooted for about a year before I got back. And I don't know, I'm probably talking to people who get this, but to be involved in a fabric printing table in a community with ink, paint, choices, colour, textiles, that's my absolute idea of heaven. And it offset all the challenges of the administration and all the other dramas, the political dramas that go on. Just to go and it was a joy, like honestly, a complete joy. When I got there, a lot of the designs were very big, and they were all by individual artists. So there was none by 2 artists. They were all individual artists and nearly all men's designs. So there were a few women's designs. Tim Grocott had done great work there. And so I was interested when Jude contacted me. And what was fantastically interesting about what the women did was they often tended to collaborate. They chose to collaborate. And so you've got these very, very interesting designs happening, of which, you know, you might be familiar with them. I set up the Etsy shop for Inulluk Arts, and we did a lot of promotion on Facebook, and that was all a lot of fun too. So leaving Inulluk, Chris Shona, this is what I didn't get to say. Chris Shona approached me about 5 years ago at a Darwin Art Fair and said, Flick, we're thinking about doing fabric. Could we come and visit Inulluk? Would you mind? And I said, oh, yeah, sure, come and have a look. You know, it's a big thing to get into fabric. And she said later, I wasn't very encouraging. And I said, no, but I said, come, didn't I? I said, you're welcome to come. And she said, because she got a bit sensitive, but she said other people had said, don't even bother. Tiwi Design said, don't bother visiting, and others. But I said, no, I said, come, no problem. Anyway, so she's quite a determined person. So she went off, and like, they don't even have facilities. This is what's amazing. They're little tiny 2-meter tables. And she went off, and by golly, did they do screen printing. And they have now gone from 0 to 100 in about, not even 4 years, maybe. And so their designs, they don't have a huge number of designs, but they're great. I've got some fabrics. So this is Keturah's, one of her designs. This is, you know, the base fabric. So when I'd been in Cambodia, I'd been talking to Vesna, and I'd been and looking at the incredibly good quality of the making, the bag making and the purse making. So I put 2 and 2 together and thought, how do we value add to the fabrics? Because there's only a certain number of people in the world who want to buy a length of fabric. And people always came and stood in the print workshop and said, oh, what are you going to do with that? Tablecloths. They'd look at this length, you know, this 8 meters of beautifully printed fabric on superb linen. So we decided to start value adding, and that project became, I then extended it also to Wadair Women's Centre, also Bulla Arts did a project with them. And then when Ikuntji came on board, I said, you want to do that? And the beautiful thing, my favourite part of the project, the Flying Fox Fabrics, which is the name because flying foxes are everywhere in the top end, or fruit bats. The thing I really adore about it is that it's women, people in communities love it too. Everyone wears clothing, just about everyone uses bags, purses, wallets. So this was something that was making products that had a very wide audience and were really enjoyed by people. So you can see behind me, I've got some of Vesna's there. This is one of her completed. This is a Keturah print. And this is a lovely, Vesna's been matching them with a beautiful cotton, 80% cotton, 20% silk. And the quality of these is just fantastic. So they really pay great respect to the fabrics. I've got all sorts of things here and purses. And so I specifically chose some of the Keturah's designs to show you. But it's, they just work well in so many products. So that's as much as I want to say now. You're welcome to ask questions. But yeah, this project is now grown significantly. And I've just received a big batch of fabric from Bulla as well, which is in Ramingining in Central Arnhem Land. And I'm currently opening a space in Darwin, maybe even about 10 days, if I'm really, really fast, in a central location in Darwin called Song Lines. And Flying Fox fabric will be in that. But that's also, once again, it's about bringing lots of different products, affordability, fair trade, and also lots of education. So that's it for me. And any questions you're most welcome to ask, or else I'll hand over to Susanna.
No, thanks, Felicity. I was going to ask, do you work with other artists, but you just answered that, saying that you also engage other artists, which is fantastic. I was going to ask you about the International Women's Day Choose to Challenge. I think it's quite appropriate. What does it mean to you? Because obviously in the space that you're at, you actually chose to challenge. Just tell me about that, if you can.
You know, to be a woman and to breathe is to know that the world is unfair. So we all face challenges, and whether we choose to take on more is up to us individually, you know, to whether we acquiesce or whether we challenge. But when I was told about the challenge, choose to challenge, I think Jude had a really good response to this when we were talking, but my personal take on it was, choosing to challenge is a little bit of a luxury in the West, because we're pretty comfortable, really. I mean, yeah, it's whatever, we've got a lot of inequity, we've got a long way to go, but we are relatively comfortable. If you're a disabled woman in Cambodia, if you're an Indigenous woman who's racially profiled or remote from services or access, or, you know, in a difficult relationship, or have, as a woman, you see so many women have to take on family responsibilities for grandchildren and thing in community. There's all sorts of stuff going on. So a lot of women I work with don't choose to challenge. They're compelled to challenge. They have to, every day can be a challenge. So that's my, I think it's a great theme to think about, to contemplate, but maybe other people have thoughts.
I was going to ask the same to Jude. What does that mean to you?
I think in the context of working with Indigenous artists, the challenge as a white woman and as a white person is to really confront our privilege, white privilege, and our white racism. And I've done a lot of looking at that and having to really, be really mindful of all the places where as white people, we assume that we know more or that we can, take over and talk too much and ask too many questions. And with the Bundjalung women, when they came here, I had to really, it's a challenge to like look at this beautiful bit of land that I'm living on Bundjalung country, their land. And as a white woman, I'm having the privilege of living here where most of them are living in houses in, a lower socioeconomic town not far from here. So I think I really embrace that challenge. I think as a white person, it's really important to not shy away from all the feelings that come up when we're faced with the situation in Indigenous Australia. And I mean, I've had supported a family to have their daughter not be put into white foster care and taken her under my wing, and just really tried to do what I can as a white woman with these Indigenous women who I totally love. And yeah, it's challenging. It's challenging. You muted yourself, Susanna. We can't hear you.
Thank you for that honest answer. Sorry. I was going to go to Vesna now to see what does choose to challenge mean to you? Have you got any thoughts, Vesna?
Sorry. For me, like I just want to talk what I have it in Cambodia. Yeah, we I like to to mention like it's not fair in the world. Yeah, it's very true, and we try to have our women specialists in I'm working with the disabled women and poor women in Cambodia. They are very vex sound, vex voice to the world, and then some of them they didn't know what is the women rights. Yeah, they don't know. Yeah, so we try to explain more and more every year to them what you can do, what you can fighting to other people around you that they don't accept, like they look down you or some problem that they have it. In my country, I saw a lot of the problem about the woman victim, women especially in the countryside. In the city, they have they have higher education in the countryside, and most of the women that from the countryside, they work with the factory, and they work with other. That's why for my organization, I try to follow the World Fair Trade Organization rule. We practice, principle 10 point of the fair trade, and now we already got we already finished of the sale assessment. So this year they will audit on the financial statement, but I don't have money to pay. And this is the what that I want to give them, what the rule that we practice, and what we should have the fair pay, fair price, and how to get the how to get the fair salary from the for the worker. And I think I don't have the big voice, the big sound to my country, to the government, but yes, I learn from them, and I try to get what I can get for my people only.
Thank you so much. What I found interesting about this whole, we've got a question, but which I'll pass on, is that we've sort of met, people from different places, and like you mentioned, Jude, different socioeconomic, like we've learned how important is it for the Ikuntji artists to have that workshop there, because out of the 430 people that live there, 136 are services, the rest, the whole community works there. And if it wasn't for that, there wouldn't be any income coming through, any opportunities, because they're so far removed. And in Cambodia, with the issues that you have there, as human rights issues, whatever it might be. And so I think what the four of you are doing, collaborating like this, is incredible that this is working, and that each supports their own community to do better. So I really commend you on that. Now I've got a question here. Can customers create and order customized design from any of the products? Anyone wants?
Is that which product is that? Is that Chanveasna, that question?
I'm not sure. It's to everybody. So maybe Chanveasna or someone can answer that can do that.
Well, I can respond that no, with remote communities, you can't customize products. However, handicrafts, so for example, what Chanveasna does, we negotiate, we talk about what designs. I have 5 different partners in Cambodia, and I respect that each of them has their own particular kind of designs. We also have a cushion maker, so I've got some cushions behind me, and they have their own expertise. So for example, Chanveasna has, this is where I ended up calling it her Delia bag, but this is one that she offered to me. And then sometimes we'll see another design that she can make. But a lot of it is all made in really small batches, and it is all limited edition, because the fabrics are made in small batches too. And it's constrained by capacity. These are small organizations, but it's also constrained by cost. I pay people the prices they nominate, fair trade prices, which I can tell you are a lot more expensive than getting it made in China, or our competitors doing digital printing in China and getting products made in China. And we're hand printing in Australia, sending it to Cambodia, fair trade producing it and sending it back. And sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes I forget to tell the story of the collaboration, which is why I'm so glad you've given us this opportunity and to bring us all together to talk about the different parts we play, because this really is seriously win-win-win. And the customers, my experience, I've sold, so much, especially when I was at Inuit, so many of these products, and they're the word egalitarian's coming to me, but they're just widely loved, they're widely used, and they're meaningful. And as Keturah said in her, when she's talking in the video, she said, I never imagined people wearing, Indigenous fabrics. I thought that was beautiful. And it's a bit like that. Out at Ikuntji, when we send the bags back, they create a riot. So that's a bit of a diversion. But so in terms of, if anyone wants to talk to Chanveasna about potentially a market or having products, then I'm sure she would welcome the communication. She's fantastic. She's very easy to reach on email and via Messenger and WhatsApp. But in terms of Aboriginal things, no, that's much, much more difficult to customize.
Thank you for that. Now, the time is up, but does anyone have any last minute question you want to ask directly? Feel free to unmute and just ask the question. Also, we will share all the details. Like I said, we'll record this, share the details where we can buy those products. Just a brief question. How much is a product, Felicity, for example, a bag or a cushion? What's the price range?
So the cushions, to buy the fabric, outright is around about $100 a metre, but a
Yeah.
cushion like this is $59. So,
Ah.
so that's the thing is, and it's, yeah, fair trade and made in Cambodia. So we try and keep it really affordable. So for example, this bag retails in Australia for around about $80. Sure, some of these are available on Ikuntji's website. Some of these are brand new and I didn't get to take photos before I moved to Darwin. So yeah, so they're kept really affordable. So the maximum price on a beautiful satchel with hardwood trim is only $125, because it seems to be more important to be generating business than to be trying to make money from it. It is a social enterprise. So yeah.
Yep. I've got a question here. How do you combine working with Aboriginal, disabled, traveling and family?
My youngest just finished year 12 last year. Yay! And my oldest is 31. So I've got 31 to 18. Sometimes not very gracefully, but really it's been an incredible life. I've had yeah, it's wonderful. And I've been so privileged to work with Indigenous Australians and to work with Cambodians. I just briefly touch on, COVID, very, very terrible. I wasn't really thinking about continuing the project last year, the Flying Fox Fabrics project, because it does take quite a lot of, the facilitation across the cultures is actually really challenging. But when I spoke to Vesna and I spoke to Tanan, their markets, because they've been running shops. You've been 2005, a little shop, Tanan since 2003. Brilliant. And tourism was a huge part, like selling to people who came, internationals. And it just went. And it was heartbreaking. You'd already closed your shop but you'd been doing other things, Vesna. But Tanan closed hers last year. And I know that she's been really struggling with her mental health. And I can't, having worked and lived in Cambodia and as a professional volunteer, like seeing that whole structure, business rather than charity, jobs rather than charity. I've seen a lot of things go wrong in Cambodia because of money and charity and that whole attitude, which is sort of patronizing. But when you can support locally owned fair trade organizations like Vesna, it's brilliant. It's just so heartwarming. And she told me a beautiful story about her ladies after they went home. They were going home for one of their holidays and COVID had hit, and she said, that's great, go home, but I don't think if you don't come back, or if you go home, I can't afford to bring you back and keep you on. So just, that's fine, stay home. And she said, I think every one of them, but maybe one came back. Yeah, was it, or all of them came back, Vesna? So she said to keep employing them, and that's why she said she's worked for nothing basically to keep her ladies in production. So I've sent a lot of money back to Cambodia in the last 12 months, but it's absolutely meaningful. And I love to be honest, I love the products. I get to play with them all the time.
All right. Well, look, the time is up, so we could be going on forever because it's very interesting. It's interesting about all the partnerships, but I'd like to thank you very much for sharing your stories, personal stories, but also how you work collaboratively. I think I see more of these, happening and really changing the way we work with communities and growing the social enterprise fair trade movement that way. So thank you very much, everybody. And we'll hopefully see you at the next event and hopefully a few more in-person events as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Susanna. We all really appreciate the opportunity and the training. Thanks so much.
Thank
you. And thanks for joining us, everyone. Thank you so much to the people who came on. Bye-bye.